Hello, eighth graders. You are ready to start section 2 on your Wheel of Theodorus project. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to go through the two main pieces of this section. So the first thing we're going to do is fill in this table A using the Pythagorean theorem. And our whole goal is to find the length of each hypotenuse in our wheel. And then that second piece for today is to just take this information and label it on your wheel. And so I'm going to go through a couple of these with you to show you how to use the Pythagorean theorem and the information from your wheel. So this first box asks us to write the Pythagorean theorem. And so I'm going to write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I recommend you writing in pencil. I'm doing it in pen to make it a little bit darker, easier for you to see in the video. But I would recommend doing everything on this table in pencil. And then there's a little note here. Remember that A equals 1 for this project because your base leg is always 1 inch. And so if I look at this wheel I have underneath here, I started with a 1 by 1 inch triangle. So if I think of this as my A, and this is my B, and then this hypotenuse is that C, this A is 1 inch. Okay, and so I am going to enter that information. 1 inch, it just so happens for that very first triangle, my other leg is also 1 inch. So if I'm thinking about my a squared plus b squared equals c squared, for my first triangle, A and B are both 1. And what I am trying to find is that hypotenuse C. So I would do 1 squared, which is 1 times 1, that equals 1, plus another 1 squared, which is 1 times 1, that also equals 1, and that equals c squared. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and I have that 2 equals c squared. But I don't want to know what c squared equals. I want to know what c by itself is, and so I need to find the square root of 2. Now, the square root of 2 is what we call an irrational number. It does not equal a whole number. And so I can leave it as the square root of 2. So now I'm ready to put that on my wheel. So I'm going to look at my wheel. Okay, this was that very first hypotenuse. So this line right here has a length of square root of 2. So now I'm ready to move on and find this hypotenuse here, okay? And so looking at my table, I need to fill in my A, which for this second triangle is 1. So I have 1 squared. A for this one is going to equal 1. B, this leg right here is actually the hypotenuse from my first triangle. And so I'm going to pull that information that we just found. B is now the square root of 2. And so I'm going to add the square root of 2 in for my B, substitute that in, and that will equal c squared. In order to solve for this part of my equation, 1 squared, we just said, is 1. Plus the square root of 2, and so if I take the square root of 2 and I square it, those are inverse operations, and so that's the same thing as just 2, right? I'm thinking of this as b squared. Well, then the letter, the variable squared, equals 2. And now I have 1 plus 2, which is 3. 3 equals c squared. Again, I don't want c squared, that's not my length. I just want c, and so c is equivalent to the square root of 3. And so again, my second piece of today's activity is to take what you find in your table to be the length and then label that on your wheel. The only other recommendation I can make, it's really your choice whether you would like to recreate this table on a separate sheet of paper and send a picture copy of it. You could also print off this page and send a picture of it once you've completed it. Or I am attaching a Google Doc, which is just of this table A. And so you do have the option to show all of this work in the Google Doc and submit it that way. And so I want to draw your attention to this little note here on the Google Doc version. And it says to insert an exponent, you need to hold down your control and the period button on your computer.